But sometimes the hardest truths we face are the ones we've been avoiding for years. Today on Our Space, finding healing when a father's absence becomes too heavy to carry. Family is supposed to be your foundation, the people who show up when no one else will, who prioritize you when it matters most. But what happens when the person who helped create you consistently chooses to be elsewhere? What happens when promises become so hollow that hope itself becomes painful? I never imagined that on the eve of major surgery, I'd be forced to finally confront the pattern of disappointment that had defined my relationship with my father. But that's exactly where I found myself, broken on my kitchen floor, finally accepting a truth I'd been running from for years. Let me start from the beginning. Maybe you'll understand. For 17 years, I've lived with the complicated reality of having a father who exists more in theory than in practice. My parents married after I was born, hoping to create stability in what had been an unplanned beginning. For 11 years, they tried to make it work until my dad's issues led him to rehab and ultimately to the end of their marriage. I'd like to say things got better from there, that the separation allowed us to build a different but meaningful father-daughter relationship. But that wouldn't be the truth. During rehab, my dad met the woman who would become his fiancée. They later had a daughter together, my half-sister who's now 6. And somewhere in that transition, I became increasingly peripheral to his life, a footnote rather than a chapter. For every school play, every award ceremony, every milestone that marked my journey toward adulthood, he had an excuse or simply didn't show. By my calculation, he's been present for less than half of my important moments since the divorce, each absence carving deeper into my sense of worth, each missed opportunity to connect, leaving me questioning why I wasn't enough to make him stay. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. Initially, the doctors thought surgery wouldn't be necessary, but my condition worsened over time. When I finally received my surgery date, November 20th of this year, I immediately told my dad. This wasn't just another school event or celebration. This was serious medical intervention, something that terrified me despite the confident reassurances of my doctors. I told him explicitly how much I needed him there, how important his support would be during my recovery. And he promised, with what seemed like genuine sincerity, that he would be there. For a moment, I let myself believe him. Then came the text explaining he'd planned a vacation that would keep him away until mid-December, just as my recovery period would be ending. It felt like a familiar knife twisting in an old wound, but I did what I've learned to do over the years. I swallowed my disappointment and accepted his choice, because fighting for his attention had never yielded anything but more heartache. Then came an unexpected reprieve. 2 hurricanes hit his vacation destination, and he informed me he would make my surgery after all. Despite my better judgment, hope flickered to life again. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe the severity of the situation had finally penetrated the wall of indifference he seemed to maintain between us. Maybe, just maybe, I could count on him when it truly mattered. But then, just a week before I was scheduled to go under the knife, came another text. His fiancée had been scheduled for lung cancer surgery on the same day as mine, just a few hours earlier, at a hospital 30 minutes away. He told me he might not make it to my surgery, though experience had taught me that his might not invariably translates to won't. He added, in what I suppose was meant to be reassurance, that this wasn't about who he loved more. That message broke something fundamental inside me. Sitting on my kitchen floor, tears streaming down my face, I finally accepted what years of evidence had been telling me. No matter how much I yearned for his attention and support, no matter how significant the occasion, I would never be his priority. This wasn't about competing with his fiancée's health crisis. I would never begrudge her the care she needs during such a difficult time. This was about the pattern, the never-ending cycle of promises made and broken, of hope given and snatched away. This was about reaching the limit of what my heart could bear in terms of disappointment from the man who was supposed to love me unconditionally. After sitting with my feelings for a while, I did something I've rarely allowed myself to do. I expressed my hurt directly and without cushioning it to protect his feelings. I texted him, laying bare how deeply his actions had wounded me. I emphasized that this wasn't about love as an abstract concept, but about showing care through consistent action. I questioned whether his fiancée's surgery had truly been scheduled at the last minute, or if he had known earlier but hadn't told me to avoid conflict. I asked him, plainly and without artifice, to be my dad in deed, not just in name. His response was predictable, insistence that the surgery had indeed been scheduled only the day before he told me. But because he's lied in similar situations before, carefully crafting narratives that absolve him of responsibility, I reached out to someone who might know the truth. I then sent a follow-up message, making it abundantly clear that my frustration wasn't with his fiancée or her health situation. It was with his pattern of absence, his consistent failure to show up for me in meaningful ways. I acknowledged that even if his reasons this time were entirely genuine, he could have at least shown some empathy, acknowledged my disappointment, expressed regret about the timing, offered alternative support. Instead, he delivered the news with the same detached tone that had characterized our relationship for years. In a moment of raw honesty, I told him I hoped he would be a better father to my half-sister than he had been to me, that she might never know the pain of wondering why she wasn't enough to make her father stay. In a final message, I set a boundary that has been years in the making. I made it clear that I was done carrying the full weight of our relationship, done being the only one who initiated contact, who remembered birthdays, who made accommodations for his schedule and preferences. I told him that if he wanted to be my dad, I would gladly be his daughter. But if he chose not to, I would find a way to be okay with that too. The ball was in his court, and for once, I wasn't going to chase it down for him. He hasn't responded to my messages, and truthfully, I prefer it that way for now. For once, I want him to sit with what I've said, to feel the weight of my words without the easy escape of a hasty reply. I want him to truly consider his actions and their impact on me, not just in this instance, but across the years we've spent orbiting each other without truly connecting. Have you ever reached a breaking point with someone you love, realizing that hoping for change was causing more pain than acceptance ever could? Have you had to set boundaries with family members who consistently disappointed you? How did you find peace with their limitations without losing yourself in the process? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most profound healing begins when we stop expecting people to be different than they've repeatedly shown themselves to be.